You've probably looked at your dog 100 times and wondered what's going on inside that head. What does he actually see when he stares at you? What does the world look like through those eyes? Most people assume dogs see in black and white. You've probably heard that your whole life. It's one of those facts that gets passed around so confidently that nobody ever stops to question it. But here's the thing. It's wrong. Not slightly wrong. Comprehensively, fascinatingly wrong in ways that reveal something much stranger and more interesting about what it's like to be a dog. Because vision is only part of the story. Your dog experiences reality through a combination of senses so different from yours that calling it the same world is almost misleading. The colors are different. The motion is different. The smells aren't just stronger. They carry information your brain literally cannot process. And the way your dog experiences time, sound, and touch creates a version of reality that operates by completely different rules. By the end of this, you're going to look at your dog differently. Not because you'll feel sorry for him, but because you'll realize his experience of the world isn't a worse version of yours. It's a different one. Built for a different purpose, optimized in ways that would make your own senses look primitive by comparison. Let's start with color, because this is where the myth does the most damage. For decades, the black and white story dominated. It made intuitive sense. Dogs evolved from wolves. Wolves hunt at dusk. Color vision seemed like a luxury they didn't need. But when researchers actually studied canine retinas instead of just assuming, they found something the myth had completely missed. Your eyes have 3 types of color receptors called cones. One detects red light, one detects green, one detects blue. Your brain combines signals from all 3 to produce the full spectrum of color you experience every day. Dogs have 2 types of cones. One sensitive to blue and violet light, one sensitive to yellow and green. Red is the gap. What this creates isn't black and white. It's a color palette closer to what a person with red-green color blindness sees. Blues are vivid and clear, yellow's red as yellow, but reds, oranges, and greens all collapse into a similar muddy yellow-brown. The vibrant red ball you throw for your dog? He sees it as a brownish blob against green grass. If you throw that same ball into a field and watch him struggle to find it while scanning right past it, that's why. He's not being stubborn. He genuinely cannot distinguish it from the ground. This has real implications for how you interact with your dog. Training with toys and equipment, blue and yellow are your colors. Those register clearly. Red means nothing to him visually. Some working dog programs have already updated their gear based on this research. The rest of the world is slowly catching up. But here's where dogs start pulling ahead of you. Low light vision. This is where the comparison shifts dramatically in your dog's favor. Dogs have a much higher density of a different type of receptor, called rods. Rods don't process color. What they do is detect light and shadow with extraordinary sensitivity. Dogs also have a structure behind their retinas called the tapetum lucidum. It's a reflective layer that bounces incoming light back through the retinas a second time, effectively giving the rods a second chance to catch it. This is what causes eye shine, that greenish glow when headlights hit a dog's eyes in the dark. The practical effect is roughly the same as if you had night vision equipment built into your skull. Dogs can navigate in light conditions so dim you would be completely blind, and their motion detection in low light is extraordinary. Where you might notice something moving 50 feet away in dim conditions, a dog can detect the same motion at several hundred feet. At dusk, in a field, your dog is operating in a world that is vivid and detailed to him while you're basically fumbling around in the dark now. The sense that actually defines what it's like to be a dog. Your nose contains roughly 6 million scent receptors. That sounds like a lot until you hear the next number. A dog's nose contains between 125 million and 300 million scent receptors, depending on the breed, and the part of the dog's brain dedicated to analyzing smell is proportionally about 40 times larger than yours. But the raw numbers still don't capture what this actually means in practice. We tend to think of smell as a faint, dim sense. Vague impressions of coffee or rain. What dogs experience through smell is more like vision, detailed, layered, specific. A dog doesn't smell your house. He smells you specifically, and also the fact that you had eggs for breakfast, that you're slightly stressed, that you left the house at 8 in the morning, that a woman with a different shampoo sat in your car 2 days ago, that the mail carrier touched your door handle, and that the neighbor's cat crossed through your yard sometime late last night. All of that information arrives simultaneously and in fine detail. Researchers studying tracking dogs have documented their ability to follow individual human footprints across terrain that was crossed by hundreds of other people, not by following a general scent cloud. By following the specific pressure marks and trace chemicals left by one particular set of feet, hours or even days after the person walked through. Dogs also have a secondary scent organ your nose doesn't have. It's called the vomeronasal organ, or the Jacobson's organ. It sits just above the roof of the mouth and connects directly to the parts of the brain that process emotion and reproduction. This organ detects pheromones specifically, the chemical signals other animals release to communicate fear, aggression, reproductive state, and social information. When your dog pushes his nose into another dog's rear end, he's not being rude. He's reading a complete social and biological profile that would take a human psychologist an entire interview to assemble. And here's the thing that changes how you think about your dog's daily experience. He's not moving through a world of objects and spaces the way you are. He's moving through a world of information. An invisible, constantly updating map of who has been here, what emotional state they were in, how long ago they passed through, and what they were doing. The fire hydrant on your corner that your dog has to investigate every single morning isn't pointless sniffing. He's reading the local news. Let's talk about hearing. Humans hear frequencies from roughly 20 Hz up to 20,000 Hz. Dogs hear up to 65,000 Hz. This means dogs hear an entire category of sound that you are completely unaware exists. Ultrasonic frequencies, the sounds produced by electronics, plumbing, and machinery that operate above your detection range are part of your dog's constant auditory environment. Some dogs visibly react to televisions or appliances that to you are perfectly silent. They're hearing something real. You just can't perceive it. The physical structure of dog ears makes them into directional microphones. Many dogs can rotate each ear independently, up to 180 degrees. This lets them triangulate the source of a sound with precision, and it lets them filter and focus on one sound stream while filtering out background noise. Your dog can hear a car turn onto your street from 2 blocks away and identify based on engine sound alone, whether it's your car or a stranger's. The reason he's already at the door when you pull into the driveway isn't magic. He recognized your vehicle's specific acoustic signature from a distance you would consider absurdly far away. There's also the question of what he's hearing in sounds you do perceive. Higher frequencies contain information that human ears smooth over. The emotional content in voices, for instance. Dogs are exquisitely sensitive to the tonal and frequency qualities of human speech. They can detect stress, joy, sadness, and anger through voice characteristics alone, independent of the actual words. Your dog doesn't need to understand language to know something is wrong. He can hear it. Now let's deal with something people often misunderstand entirely. Touch. Dogs have whiskers, and most people think of them as decorative or as leftover features from some earlier evolutionary stage. They're neither. Whiskers, technically called vibrissae, are deeply embedded sensory organs connected to dense clusters of nerve endings at their roots. They detect changes in airflow, surface texture, and spatial proximity. They feed the dog a real-time map of nearby objects and movements that his eyes don't catch. When a dog navigates in the dark, whiskers are part of how he does it. When he runs through dense brush, whiskers give him feedback about what he's moving through faster than vision can process. The paws are another sensory hub most people overlook. Dog paw pads contain Meissner's corpuscles, the same mechanoreceptors in your fingertips that let you feel fine texture and pressure. Dogs use their paws to gather tactile information about surfaces. This is partly why some dogs are reluctant to walk on new textures. The feedback from an unfamiliar surface is genuinely different, and processing it requires attention now. The part of this that most fundamentally separates your dog's experience from yours. Time. Your brain has a temporal resolution of roughly 24 frames per second. This is why movies look smooth at that frame rate. Your visual system fills in the gaps between frames and perceives continuous motion. Dogs have a higher temporal resolution. The number isn't precisely established, but evidence suggests dogs see it something closer to 70 to 80 frames per second. What this means in practice is that your dog perceives motion in finer detail than you do. Slow motion events that require a camera for you to analyze, your dog may be processing in real time. But it also means standard broadcast television looks like a flickering slideshow to him, not continuous video. Modern high refresh rate screens are more likely to look fluid to a dog than older televisions were. And then there's the question of how dogs orient time through smell. Humans experience time primarily as duration. We check clocks. We measure intervals. Dogs experience time through scent concentration. A smell that is strong arrived recently. A smell that has faded arrived earlier. A smell that is almost gone arrived a long time ago. This gradient of scent concentration gives dogs a rough sense of how long ago events occurred without any clock whatsoever. When your dog sniffs around a spot where another animal sat, he's not just identifying the species, he's calculating roughly when they were there. This has a strange implication for how your dog experiences your absence. When you leave the house, your scent begins fading at a predictable rate. Dogs appear to develop a sense of how long you've been gone based on how much your residual scent has dissipated. There's research suggesting that dogs left alone longer show different behavior upon your return, not just because they missed you more, but because the duration of your absence had an actual chemical marker they could perceive. Let's bring all of this together into a single moment, because that's where it becomes real. Imagine you're walking your dog through a park on a Tuesday morning. In your experience, it's a park, trees, a path, some other people and their dogs, maybe some geese. You register the broad shapes of it, the green of the grass, the blue of the sky. Your dog is experiencing something completely different in that same space. The grass contains a chemical record of every animal that walked through it in the past several days, with rough timestamps encoded in scent intensity. The air carries the emotional states of every dog within 100 meters, whether they're relaxed or anxious or in heat or sick. He's hearing the ultrasonic sounds of insects in the grass, the specific acoustic signatures of vehicles 2 streets away, possibly the high-frequency output of a nearby electrical transformer. His whiskers are feeding him airflow information that tells him about moving objects before he sees them. The color palette is shifted toward blues and yellows, with reds and greens flattened into a similar tone, but his motion detection is scanning for movement at a resolution your visual system can't match. He's not experiencing a simpler version of your park. He's experiencing a different park, richer in some dimensions, more limited in others, but built for a specific purpose that yours isn't. Which brings up the question that the science points toward but rarely states directly. Whose version of the park is more accurate? The answer is that it's the wrong question. Your senses were shaped by evolution to give you information useful for what your ancestors needed to survive and reproduce. Your dog's senses were shaped by a completely different set of pressures. First as a predator, then as a social partner for humans, refined over thousands of years of coevolution with us specifically. Neither version of the park is the real park. Both are functional models built from incomplete information. The philosopher Thomas Nagel wrote about this in a famous essay asking what it's like to be a bat. The honest answer is that we can never fully know, but we can get closer than we used to be. Here's what this actually means for how you live with your dog. When he fixates on a smell that you can't detect at all, he's not being difficult. He's reading something you're not equipped to read. When he reacts to a sound you don't hear, he's not neurotic. He's responding to real auditory information in a frequency range you can't access. When he struggles to find the red ball in green grass, he genuinely cannot see it the way you do. When he circles the same patch of grass 6 times before settling, he might be processing a scent map of that specific ground that requires actual analysis. Understanding this doesn't just make you more patient with behaviors that seem irrational. It changes how you train, how you communicate, how you set up his environment, and what you ask of him. Blue and yellow equipment registers clearly in his visual system. Letting him sniff on walks isn't wasted time. It's how he reads the world. Using your voice's tone and frequency carefully communicates more than the words you're saying. Your dog isn't a furry human with limited abilities. He's a different kind of mind, built for a different kind of world, sharing your space and your life. And the more clearly you see that, the better you get at understanding what he's actually telling you and what he needs from you in return. The world looks different to your dog, sounds different, smells incomprehensibly richer, moves differently, ages differently through scent rather than clocks. But in that different world, he found his way to yours, and he's been navigating both ever since.